The danger is to please an immediate public.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Artist Provocateur. I'm Josephat, and today we're talking about three artists that really take that I could have done that argument to the extreme. We're talking about Carl Andre, Martin Creed, and Richard Serra. Carl Andre is an American minimalist sculptor. He's credited with having changed the world of sculpture forever. He is recognized for his linear, ordered, and grid-like format sculptures. His work ranges from very large public sculptures like his Lament for the Children in Long Island to large interior installations to very intimate small pieces. Andre's works can be characterized by four elements: flatness, the use of untransformed materials in repetition, generic space, and the use of ordinary materials and forms. His sculptures are usually created with everyday materials, with industrial, commonplace materials. They sit on the floor, never on plinths, never on pedestals, and they transform the space. They change the perspective of the audience. It's not just an object to observe, but it's also an intervention of the space that forces the audience to move around the piece, to transform their transit patterns. From 1960 to 64, Carl Andre worked as a conductor for the Pennsylvania Railroad. This greatly influenced his personality and his appreciation for materials. He preferred bricks and lumber, the types of materials that you find on a railroad station, but it was also not uncommon for him to show up in coveralls even at the most formal occasions. In 1965, he had his first public exhibit, a joint show called Shape and Structure. Then in 66, he presented at the Primary Structures show at the New York's Jewish Museum, which introduced the audience to minimalism for the first time. In this show, Carl Andre presented Lever, not just one of the most important sculptures for minimalism, but also one that would become almost a staple for Carl Andre's career. Lever consists of a single line, 137 bricks. The work transforms the space very simply as the bricks hug the floor. It projects out from a wall and straight across the floor, and according to Andre, it's like a fallen column. Lever surprised the visitors to the gallery by interrupting their transit, by just appearing in a different way in front of them, unannounced. This is part of the experience that Carl Andre is giving us. It's part of this resignification of the space, not only because it creates this obstacle, but because by having it there in the middle of the room, it forces us to rethink the space as a whole. Later that same year, Andre presented his equivalent series, of which the most controversial is Equivalent 8. Each of Andre's 8 sculptures in the equivalent series consists of a rectangular arrangement of 120 fire bricks. Although the shape of each sculpture is different, they all have the same height, the same mass, and the same volume, and therefore they are equivalent. In 1972, Tate Great Britain purchased Equivalent 8 from Andre, and they ended up not even paying that much. They paid half the asking price because the piece didn't originally sell at the exhibit. So it was a great addition for the Tate, and it didn't gather that much controversy when it was first exhibited in 74 or 75. But later, when it was no longer on display in 76, there was all this rage that started building around the piece because the perception started that British taxpayers had just paid for this overpriced bunch of bricks, and that was too much for people to take. Funnily enough, on the other hand, people actually criticized the Tate for not buying all 7 other equivalents, therefore changing the concept to the equivalence of this piece and failing to explain the concept. Martin Creed is a British performer, composer, and visual artist. He won the Turner Prize in 2001 for exhibits in the preceding year, and the critics actually praised his audacity for presenting his work 227, The Lights Go On and Off, during the Turner Show. Films, installation, paintings, sculpture, theater, live action, pretty much anything goes for Martin Creed. He uses any material that he finds suitable, and since 1987 he's been numbering his pieces. Most of the titles are descriptive, like Work 79, some blue tack needed rolled into a ball and depressed against the wall, or Work number 88, a sheet of A4 paper crumpled into a ball. His work number 200, half the air in a given space, is a room which has half of its cubic space filled with balloons. His submission for the Turner Prize show was work number 227, The Lights Go On and Off. It's basically an empty room with the lights on a timer where the lights go on and off at 5-second intervals. The Turner Prize usually gathers a lot of press attention, and this was no exception. And of course, there was a lot of controversy around it. Most of it was whether or not a work this abstracted could even be considered art at all. Nevertheless, the critics really praised his work, and they praised his wit, his sensitivity to the space, his rigor, his strength. Unsurprisingly, there has been protest against his work. A visitor threw eggs at a wall where 227 was being shown, and as a protest against the prize, and he yelled that that was not real art, and he said, and I quote, "Painting is in danger of becoming an extinct skill in this country." In 2009, work 975, Everything Is Going to Be Alright, was installed on the facade of the Scottish National Gallery of Modern Art. This was one of the most liked pieces by Creed, and it was replicated later on, but new numbers were assigned to them. On the nature and inspiration of his own work, Creed has been quoted saying, "The only thing I feel like I know is that I want to make things. Other than that, I feel like I don't know. So the problem is in trying to make something without knowing what I want. I think it's all to do with wanting to communicate. I mean, I think I want to make things because I want to communicate with people, because I want to be loved, because I want to express myself." His major retrospective, What's the Point of It, in 2014, presented some of his best known works, including work number 227, The Lights Go On and Off, work number 293, Sheet of Paper Crumpled into a Ball, and his epic sculpture, work number 1092, Mothers. Then in 2017, he presented his latest exhibit in the Netherlands. The show was called Say Cheese, and for it he presented a wall with 1,000 broccoli prints, and he filled a room with blue balloons to walk through. A few years earlier, in the late 60s, Richard Serra, one of the most influential figures in American art and the process art movement, was creating his first sculptures out of non-traditional materials. He used fiberglass and rubber at first. His work was largely abstract and process-based. He switched from fiberglass and rubber quickly to molten lead, which he hurled at large walls to create splashes. Then in '69, he became concerned with cutting, propping, and stacking lead sheets and rough timber and what he called his prop pieces. These are monumental structures in which gravity is balancing lead rolls and sheets that allow the weight of their own pieces to keep the whole sculpture together. Pieces like cutting device, base plate measure is an assemblage of heterogeneous materials like lead, wood, stone, and steel, in which two parallel cuts are made and the results thrown around in a chance configuration. In Malmo Row, a 4-foot square steel plate, 1.5 inches thick, divides a corner of the room, and it's prevented from falling by a short cylindrical prop wedged into the corner of the wall. Santiago Serra is better known for his minimalist constructions, which are made from large rolls and sheets of steel. Many of these pieces are self-supporting, and they call attention to the nature of the material and the weight. Many of these pieces, if not all, are treated to rust and led to rust over time, so that gives them this signature finish. Around the 70s, Serra shifted focus to the outdoors and started creating these large site-specific pieces. His site-specifics are very large in scale. They usually dwarf the observer, and they call to question the observer's position and relationship to the space, one's own proportion, and it encourages movement through and around the piece. Perhaps the most famous example of this is his toric ellipse. They are single elliptical forms made of huge steel plates bent into circular sculptures with open tops. They rotate upwards as they lean in or out. In 1981, Richard Serra installed his most controversial piece, Tilted Arc. Tilted Arc is a 3.5 meter high arc of steel that was in the middle of the Federal Plaza in New York City. There was controversy about this piece pretty much from day one, mostly from workers at the plaza who complained that there was no clear passage, it was in the middle of the space, it transformed their viewport, so it was a hassle. But there were also some who considered that because the piece was site-specific, it turned the plaza into part of the piece, and therefore it was, in a sense, taking the plaza hostage. A public hearing in '85 actually determined that the piece had to be removed. But Richard Serra argued that because it was site-specific, it couldn't be anywhere else. He issued an often quoted statement about site-specific art that says, and I quote, "To remove the work is to destroy it." Finally, in '89, the piece was dismantled, dismounted, and taken to a warehouse in New York. Along with the debates from Tilted Arc, a few accidents related to the installation of his pieces have actually brought Richard Serra's name back to the controversy. Namely, in '71, a worker was killed when a 2-ton steel plate fell on him at the Walker Arts Center in Minneapolis. And then in '89, another worker lost his leg. So this controversy has definitely kept Serra at the forefront of the discussion. In 2000, he installed Charlie Brown, a 60-foot tall sculpture at the headquarters of Gap. And in 2003, he installed Wake at the Olympic Sculpture Park in Seattle. Only a few of Richard Serra's pieces for auction are sculptures. Most of the works that he actually auctions are on paper. But in 2001, an untitled curved wall sold for $1.2 million, and the record for one of his pieces being $1.75 million. Owners of these pieces, be it museums or individuals, cannot move or alter these pieces in any ways without Richard Serra's permission. As a matter of fact, a collector that owns a piece by Richard Serra cannot sell it to another collector unless he offers it to Richard Serra first. That is one of his clauses. Alright guys, that's our video, but here are 5 questions to get us started on our conversation about Carl Andre, Martin Creed, and Richard Serra. Number 1. Is there a limit to how minimal a work of art can be? Number 2. Can the artist display any form of skill or talent in a piece that is intangible? Number 3. What are pieces like Work 227 or Equivalent 8 telling us about ourselves? Number 4. If a work of art interferes with our daily lives, do we have the right to destroy it? Finally, number 5, is a piece that anyone could have made still art? Alright guys, that's the end of our video. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to keep your comments below, and I will see you next time.